Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever you are in the world. Um, my name is Ibrahim. I work with the United Nations Educational and Scientific Organization, and I'm from Nigeria. Nigeria is in the western part of Africa and has one of the largest population. It has the largest population in Africa with over 250 million people. And approximately 55 to 60% of its populations are youth. So today I'm not here to give you lectures, pardon me, but to share my journey. But I just wanted you to have a little bit of idea of where I come from, because I've had situations where when when they hear you're from Africa, people do not understand that there are a lot of countries in Africa, just like we have in America and Europe. A lot of people just generalize Africa as a country instead of a continent, right? So So I just wanted to talk about my journey and how I, walked through sustainability to environmental and so many other things that I found along the way. For many of us who grew up in Africa, we we grew up without much. And for a long time, personally, I find it very difficult to figure out what I really wanted. I wasn't one of those people who knew exactly what they wanted. We had no idea, especially the damages we were causing the earth. I remember as young children, we would chop down trees, we set the forest ablaze, we hunt for meat. But now, as I grew older, I realized that the place that was once very beautiful has now been burnt down by us. So, because our parents never, told us about sustainability, I never knew what that meant. I never even imagined sustainability could be a career path for me. And I didn't even know it existed as a thing. So I grew up in a place where the biggest questions were simple. How do we go through today? It was all about survival. How do we make tomorrow better than today? So I didn't have a perfect plan. I didn't come from a powerful background. A lot of people from, African background can relate to this. But one thing I knew for me personally was about curiosity, about people, about problems, and about why some communities struggle more than others. We've read stories about big cities. But over time, I began to notice something. Education, climate, health, they were all connected. When the environment suffers, people suffer. When when people don't have access to good education, the future of our people will also suffer. And that was how my own journey started. Not with a job title, but my journey started with more like a questions. How can I be useful to the society? Today, I work in sustainability and development. I work under the United Nations, and I didn't just wake up one morning to find myself there. I didn't find a career. I had to build one. I had to build it through curiosity over time. And that is what I want to share with you, how I ended up in the sustainability space. I work in sustainability and community development, and I'm proud to contribute to the world through my work with UNESCO, helping to combat climate change. And my role has allowed me to shape policies, foster collaboration between government, communities, and organizations, and turn some of these global strategies into meaningful local action. And this has given me a life purpose, I tell you, because I see how coordinated, efforts has created a lasting impact around the world. Like I said, I'm not here to give you lectures. I just want to share a little bit of my experience. So, um, UNESCO wasn't where I started from, right? That wasn't where I started my career, but I had to build through every step by step. I made mistakes. There was nobody to mentor me. Today we have the Earth Foundation and many other, non-profit organizations fighting against climate change and all of that and how we can protect our environment. For me, I built my career through curiosity, but then some of us have opportunities now for we've learned so we can share our own experiences so you don't have to go through the process that we went through. So my first exposure to this work came through education system and community project. When I joined the humanitarian sector, I was to serve and to give back. I wanted to create opportunities for younger generation to bring hope, to build society where everyone can thrive through learning. But there were many challenges, I remember, that we face in those communities that we've been pledged to serve. I saw how schools, health, environment, affected people's daily life. I also began to notice climate and some development challenges that were only heard in bigger cities before we hear about climate change in America. But it was everywhere. There was drought and so many other things in our local areas. That was when I realized that I wanted to work on solutions that work, that would help people, that would help to protect the future at the same time. And my passion went beyond just, serving in the area of education. I went on to start working on the combating water insecurity throughout the part of sub-Saharan Africa, countries like Niger Republic, which is also like a Western country where people were faced with drought and sanitation. So while I was in Niger, I didn't know much about it, but then Niger is one of the youngest and the most climate vulnerable country in the world. The lands are dry, the rainfalls are unpredictable, and many communities live there live very close to age of survival. While I was in Niger, I noticed the climate change condition was very poor. So during my time, I worked under what we call WASH, Project and Rehabilitation of Mobile Clinics, supporting communities that had limited access to clean water, sanitation, and healthcare. In many of these communities, women and children had to walk a long distance just to fetch water. There were broken boreholes. Some of them had been struck by hardship. But one of the things that amazes me personally is the resilience of the people. Communities always took ownership of the project that we did, no matter how little. I remember there are a couple of times where it took us days to be able to find water in some of those communities because the lands are really dry. In some countries, in a place like Nigeria, you'll be able to find water. But in Niger, it takes over 1,000 meters deep before you can find water. So working in Niger taught me that sustainability is not just about the environment. It is about people. It is about dignity. It's about access and system that continues to work even long after the project ends. We've worked on the solar power points. I remember approximately for the past 3 years, we've been able to achieve over 250 boreholes and wells across the local communities and some mobile clinics as well. That experience really, really changed how I see development work. It showed me that meaningful impact happens when solutions are locally driven. Climate resilience are built to last, not in the most challenging environment. So as I move forward, learning through some of these challenges, it is very important to understand what are the root causes of some of these problems. And so my mission personally as as someone who really want to make a difference in our society of today, my mission drifted. It went beyond bringing, water and sanitation, but finding real cause of things. I started asking myself questions about why are our wells drying up? And why are crops and the animals in the sea going extinct? And why is there deforestation? Because that is where the problem is. I began to study the environment. I started to read publications on climate and why we're faced with so much uncertainty with the global warming we keep hearing every now and then. A few years later, a group of 3 people, including I, came up with an idea to save our trees through recycling. This means keeping materials in use, giving them, new life instead of letting them pollute our planet and our trees to be saved again from, big industries. I personally have a background in engineering to solve problems that are mechanical. In the field, I saw technically perfect solutions fail because they ignore people, they ignore culture, and we fail to teach people ownership on how they can take care of their environment. So it clicked to me that engineering is not really the answer, but sustainability answers why and for whom. So I've never personally abandoned engineering. Engineering expanded into system of thinking, community development, sustainability for me. And that was where we founded a company called Blue Cycle Nigeria, because the idea was to turn plastic waste into a reusable oil for new products, for making other materials, which will help to reduce pollution and create economic possibilities and opportunities in our communities. We wanted to solve the problem and also create jobs around it as well. And that was the kind of dream we had as young people. So you see, you don't need to be a scientist to contribute. You could work in designing system. You could be a technology expert. You could work under government policies, community engagement, or even build a business models that make recycling profitable for people that are good for the planet. So personally, I think over the years of experience traveling to a few part of Africa and learning from the things that has been happening in our environment, I learned that sustainability is not just about saving trees, it's about saving the future. People need to care more about the planet before we can actually feel the effect. As years passed, we came up with an idea because one of the challenges we had was funding. A lot of government and big corporations are not really interested in funding, climate related challenges that we face in our society today. We founded we Africa Ventures, hoping we can be able to raise fund to build a more sustainable, community where we can build a climate resilient and sorry, I think I'm getting a question.
I'm just letting everyone know that they can post their questions so that we're ready for afterwards. We all took our cameras off just to let the internet flow as good as possible. So that's why you can't see anyone. Sorry.
That's okay. So we founded We Africa Ventures because we wanted to build a climate resilient solution for sustainability, because we realized that the problem that we face today, there has to be funding first. Besides, mentorship, the government has to be able to provide some access to finance for people to help in combating some of these issues. Because over the years, I think the climate sector has faced that challenge. So I recently read about this 21-year-old inventor from the US. His name is Julian Brown from Atlanta area. So he went viral a few months back for his work in energy field. I don't think he has any background in engineering. It was just he just cared about the environment. He wanted to make a difference. So he built this plastoline kind of technology, which turns plastic into usable fuel, such as gasoline, gas, and jet fuel. And one of the things that I learned about that is he tried to raise about I think $1 million to scale the project, but he couldn't raise that money because a lot of people do not really care about, the climate, the problem that we're facing in our world today. I remember there's an initiative he tried to create plastic to foil together. To foil together, we will heal the earth or something, I recall. And then there were several other things he tried to do as well. And I also learned that he eventually developed like a machine that could convert plastic waste into usable foil. What people saw as useless trash has become an energy that could power our communities today. So he was no scientist, right? He was just someone who cares about the community, and that's what matters. Because do you know that the water you drink may have once been in the clouds, the ocean, or even inside the planet, or even inside an animal thousands of years ago? The earth, water, and sky are connected through the water cycle. The sun hits the water on earth, water rises into the sky as vapor, it forms cloud, and it returns back to earth as rain. So same water feeds our rivers, grows our food, cools our planet, and sustains all life. When we pollute the land, we pollute the water. When we pollute the water, it affects the sky and the climate as well. So when we damage the sky through emission, our rainfall's pattern will change on Earth as well. And that is why we're facing flood. We heard it happening in Spain a couple of months back. We heard a landslide happening in Indonesia recently. Protecting the earth is not an option. It is protecting the entire system that keeps us alive. So in many parts of Africa, the global south, we hear sustainability as a theory, but it's no longer a theory. It has become a part of us. We don't have to be, like I said, you don't have to be a scientist. You can choose to be an education, youth and climate advocate, to lend your voice to teach climate literacy, just like what I'm trying to do right now. You can even choose to design a youth program focused on sustainability and leadership, just like the Earth Foundation is doing. And what do we need to be that? All we need to have is good communication. We need to be creative. And to be a leader, someone has to always be willing to take the lead. But we can't all be good at public speaking. Some of us are not very good at public speaking. But we have other creative ideas, like you could build a technology that will help to tackle some of these problems in our local communities. You could use artificial intelligence, to track the floods happening in Spain or in your own locality. We could use that to improve farming or even manage waste or even come up with a new idea, a technology that will help to create a more sustainable city that we can be able to live, freely. I've always learned through my experience that the environment don't need scientists alone. We need writers, people who can write. We need planners, You can plan for events, talk about how we can save our trees, how we can save our oceans. We need analysts. We need leaders that can lend their voice because the world of sustainability is about skills we can develop from the challenges that we see every day, not just about having a degree.
Thank you for coming. And Ibrahim, thank you for starting this series, even though you didn't know you were the first
Yeah.
person to be here. But it was really, really good that you were up for it.